This is the truth about success they never taught you. They told you to chase trophies, to measure your life in applause and promotions, but they never whispered the deeper law, that success is not a prize waiting at the end of the maze. It is the fire that forges the maze itself. Hear the spark in the darkness. Every empire, every locomotive idea that ripped through history was once nothing more than a tremor inside an ordinary mind. Edison felt that tremor while the world mocked him with 10,000 failures. Lincoln felt it while the nation tore itself apart. Disney felt it while creditors pounded on his studio door. They were not gambling on luck. They were obeying a silent commandment written in the marrow of all creators. Say yes to the vision before the world gives you permission to see it. Pull back the curtain and look closer. Success is not an elevator. It is a spiral staircase cut from stone you must carve yourself, step after grinding step. You ascend by sculpting your thoughts into belief, your belief into discipline, your discipline into relentless action. The first chisel blow lands in the private chambers of the mind, where the quiet voice of mindset shapes everything that will or will not become. If that voice trembles, the stone remains rough and the staircase sinks back into the earth. But if that voice thunders with conviction, the limestone sings open, and with each strike, you climb a fraction higher toward daylight. So stand still for a heartbeat. Feel the echo of your own inner dialogue. Is it a ragged, uncertain whisper? Or does it surge like a war drum that shakes the ribs? Weekday mornings expose our true allegiance. Either we rise with the tyranny of the snooze button, or we rise with the sacred intent of builders. The laws of physics don't bend for dreamers, but they respond with brutal honesty to those bold enough to command their internal weather, to choose optimism when the sky looks sickly, to choose energy when sleep still clings like fog. You are not the temperature of the room, you are the thermostat. Belief, then, is not the soft sentiment people mistake for hope. It is the steel girder you slam into the ground before raising your life's skyscraper. Andrew Carnegie once said, "The man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything to which he is justly entitled." That statement is not poetic, it is mechanical. The moment your belief becomes non-negotiable, your brain rewires its circuitry, scanning every moment for leverage, resources, alliances, like Ford pacing his factory floor in midnight silence, tasting engines in the air until he could see the assembly line before the first wrench was lifted. Blind belief is not ignorance, it is vision operating faster than sight. Yet clarity is the compass that makes belief lethal. A torch without direction only burns its wielder. You must carve your desire into words so sharp they could cut glass, statements that snap the universe into focus. If someone shook you awake at 3 a.m., could you declare in one breath the exact life you are constructing? If not, you are wandering the desert of good intentions where sand swallows even the grandest footprints. Write it, chant it, tattoo it on your habits. Clarity is how the mind knows where to pour its voltage. Purpose follows like gravity. It is the undercurrent that carries tired muscles farther than they were designed to travel. When a human being knows why, fatigue becomes fuel, rejection becomes refinement, and boredom evaporates in the furnace of meaningful labor. Remember the young Abraham Lincoln hunched under candlelight, reading worn law books after trudging miles through mud? He wasn't studying to pass time, he was loading ammunition for a destiny that would demand every ounce of his resolve. Discipline is the daily proof that purpose is real. It is the hammer striking the anvil of routine until sparks become structure. Do you think champions wait craving every workout? Do you imagine inventors grin through every prototype that refuses to work? Discipline is the muscle that drags the mind across cold mornings and long nights until effort becomes identity. One day you glance at the clock and realize you are no longer forcing yourself. You are simply continuing who you have become. Action, then, is the lightning that splits the sky, announcing that belief has grown teeth. Plans without movement are ornate coffins. They bury potential alive. Pull the lever, make the call, launch the prototype even if it limps. Speak the idea that still scares you. Each imperfect step stirs the variables the armchair philosopher never meets. In motion, you collide with mentors, markets, feedback, and friction, the alchemy that renders the impossible into your new normal. Gratitude is the heartbeat that sustains it all, the invisible hydraulic that lifts the weight of relentless striving. It is not surrender, it is the recognition that opportunity glitters even in hardship. Edison thanked every failed filament for pointing him closer to tungsten. When you count the lessons in every struggle, you prime the mind to expect treasure in the rubble, and expectation magnetizes experience. Adaptability becomes your shield in the chaos of pursuit. Plans fracture, economies wobble, allies leave. Those who cling to yesterday's strategy drown in today's tide. Bend like bamboo, pivot like Tesla, rewriting blueprints overnight, and you remain unbreakable. The ones who survive, no, the ones who transcend are those who treat change not as a threat, but as an invitation to evolve. They do not curse the storm, they become architects of the storm's energy. While others panic when the terrain shifts, the adaptable build wings where there were once only roads. Think of Henry Ford again, not just the man who built cars, but the man who reimagined the way work itself was done. When the world expected horses, he engineered systems. When tradition stood in his path, he ran it over with vision. Adaptability is not compromise, it is mastery in motion. And when the motion grows violent, when setbacks come like waves pounding a fragile dock, resilience must rise. Not the kind of resilience they teach with soft words, but the kind carved into the backs of warriors who keep walking through fire. Every person you admire has been broken before they were built. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for TV. They didn't retreat, they didn't shrink, they went underground and sharpened their edge. They learned how to suffer forward. Pain became information. Rejection became redirection. The world cannot defeat someone who uses defeat as fuel. But even with resilience, you must remain a student of the battlefield. Learning is the quiet superpower that turns struggle into strategy. Not academic learning for its own sake, but learning that is surgical, hungry, and specific. The kind of learning Carnegie demanded from his partners, the kind that Lincoln devoured by candlelight. You study not to appear smart, but to become dangerous. When you read, when you test, when you observe, you plant weapons inside your future self. And when the world throws a new obstacle in your path, you don't just respond, you evolve. So where does all this lead? It leads to the mirror. Because after all the teachings, the quotes, the mentors and books and seminars, you will always return to one brutal question. Are you willing to take responsibility for everything in your life? That's the line in the sand. That's where the dreamers fall and the doers rise. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they blame. Blame the economy, blame the timing, blame the algorithm. But responsibility is the throne of kings and queens. When you say, if it's to be, it's up to me. Not as a phrase, but as a code, everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop wishing, you stop negotiating with your lesser self. You become the architect. Success in its rawest form is ownership. It is the willingness to plant your flag in the land of risk and say, I may lose, I may bleed, I may be misunderstood, laughed at, copied, betrayed, but I will not retreat. I will not sleepwalk through this life. Because you were not made to spectate. You were not made to scroll through other people's victories and call that living. You were made to build, to shape, to stretch the limits of your own biology and belief. And let us be clear, success is not a number in your bank account or followers on a screen. It's not a car, a watch, or a title on a door. Success is the alignment between your vision and your execution. It is waking up and knowing that your thoughts, your actions, your rituals, and your surroundings are all dancing to the beat of the same drum. It is the elimination of inner conflict, the erasure of regret, and the peace of knowing that you are becoming who you were meant to become.